Start us up, babe.
Hello and welcome to episode 297 of Sudden Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and we'll save the Steelers till later on in our football discussion.
Yes.
But some interesting games. I mean, I've been a Lions fan all year since I watched Hard Knocks, and I'm excited now. They're six. I think they're 6-7 now.
They are 6-7.
But they've won like four or five in a row, and they had some tough losses. And I just really like the way they play for the coach.
And
I
as
like what they're doing. For some reason, and they talked about it, the Talking Heads talked about it today, maybe people wrote off Jared Goff too quick.
Yeah.
But he's deadly at home. I think he's got 22 of his 24 touchdown passes at home.
Yeah, and if you listen to the analytic guys and things along those lines, they point out that, when Jared Goff is not in rhythm, the difference between a good quarterback and a great quarterback is most quarterbacks in the NFL can complete passes in a perfect setting, right?
Right.
But once you get them off their spot, once you take away their first read, Jared Goff suffers a lot, and he still does. They said even this year he's been doing it. So it's one of those, when things are clicking and working. But again, you could make him like a Tua, where, you get Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, these running backs. So all of a sudden you've got a really nice, set of weapons. So.
Yeah, but I was excited to see them win. I watched the end of the Texans and the Cowboys.
They snuck by.
And the Cowboys snuck by, which is kind of what you said. Jack leads them on a 97-yard drive, and that makes all the difference in the world at the end of the game. That's how they win. They're down 3, but Lovie Smith, I got to give him credit for going for it with a 1-10 team on the 1, and they got stuffed twice and turned the ball over.
Yeah.
But you get your team up and play a game like that. That should have been a blowout. I think the Cowboys were favored by like 17, but it wasn't a blowout.
It was not.
And then the Jets and the Bills, I guess weather was the big equalizer.
Yeah, and the Jets they had a couple of just killer penalties on defense. Like I told you, a guy tried to do a Palomalu and tackle the guy diving over the pile. So instead of 4th and 1 getting the ball back, it was 1st and 10. The Bills went down and got their first touchdown. There was a roughing the passer. There was a pass interference. It was just a couple of those just head-scratcher penalties for the Jets. And they seem like they're still not there, right? They're not the Bills.
Yep. No.
And the Eagles took care of business once again.
How about 2.5 minutes into the game, 7-0 49ers?
I like that.
Purdy leads them down on their drive. He had a couple passes, but a couple big runs by Deebo Samuel and McCaffrey. But, against the Bucs defense, which is supposed to be pretty good, went right down the field and scored first possession.
Oh, yeah.
Rookie quarterback. So that's impressive. I like the 49ers where they are right now. And, I like Brock Purdy when he was in college.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys coming out that they said he has everything above the neck that you want, but below the neck he doesn't have any, elite attributes.
No, nothing elite. There's no elite speed, no elite arm. But, that's an impressive. Your first possession as a starter and you lead him down the field for a touchdown, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. He honestly reminds me a little bit of Pickett. You can see the moxie, and again, like Pickett's an above-the-shoulder guy with, pretty average skills all around physically. And But you can see when he plays, like his teammates like him. He's got that little pep, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and obviously the 49ers were pretty confident in him because, where they are, looking pretty good for the playoffs, and Jimmy G could be back in the playoffs, possibly. But they didn't panic and said, this is our guy, so they must like what they've seen.
Well, and despite, his great drive and all the props to the best commercial NFL player right now, Baker Mayfield, when people are like, well, he should go to the 49ers, I don't think the 49ers want anything to do with,
No.
And I know Baker came out and he had a 98-yard drive, the longest drive with no timeouts to win a game, and it was great. He's headbutting his teammates, but I think we've seen enough Baker to know that, Baker wasn't going to take this 49er team to the promised land, so.
No. Hey, next week Baker could throw 3 picks. The knock on Baker is he's inconsistent.
And I did hear one cool thing about Brock Purdy that puts him in a different position than a lot of first-year players is Jimmy G was hurt all through training camp. So Brock Purdy talked about how he got to be the second-team quarterback, and he's the scout quarterback. And he's going up against Bosa and Willis and this defense every day. And then as soon as Jimmy G came back, Trey Lance got hurt. So even under Jimmy G, he was getting second-team reps. And, so...
Oh, so he's got a lot of reps and got prepared. That's good.
Yeah.
Good to know.
What you do, usually you get down to your third string quarterback, he's barely played, but given the health of the other two players, he was basically the second team quarterback since he was drafted. Which, pretty nice, right?
Yeah. Well, the Eagles clinched a playoff spot today.
Yeah.
And the Vikings could have, but didn't.
Yeah.
And, like we've talked about, Jay, you and I have said this for weeks now. Minnesota's got a great record, but I don't see it.
No, and I think, obviously our Steelers were at 1 year when they were 11-1. The Patriots were 1 year when they were 12-1. There's always one team every year that just gets enough breaks and schedules where they're way ahead of their record. And Baltimore.
Yeah, their record's way ahead of where the team really is.
Yeah, and it's shocking to me that Baltimore, watching them play this year, Baltimore is 9-4.
Yeah.
And they're in first place in the division, tied with the Bengals, but they have the head-to-head over the Bengals already.
Yeah, I think they got one game left with the Bengals, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess before we move on,
16-14 wasn't a lot of points. As usual, in a Steeler-Raven game, always bet the under.
Yeah, 16-14. I guess we should have our Steeler moment now.
We could have our Steeler moment now. We'll get a shootout to give Joe Burrow some love for finally beating the Browns.
Yes, congratulations, Joe Burrow. Yeah, our Steelers lost 16-14 today. Pickett got knocked out with a concussion, or at least in concussion protocol, maybe in the first quarter, right? Pretty early.
He went out. He went in the blue tent. They put him back in. He came out, and then he was done.
Yeah.
I guess he had symptoms or something. He said he had symptoms or whatever, and then he went out. But yeah, he and it was a bad call. I thought it should have been a roughing call because he wasn't tackled. He was flung to the ground with some serious force.
And for the people that didn't see it, he almost got sacked by one guy. He spun out of that into the arms of another. And this guy sort of spun him around twice. And on the second one, it looked like he really slammed him hard to the ground. And it seemed like that was the definition of, once he's on his way down, let up.
Yeah.
And they did not let up.
No, not at all.
So our Steelers now sit.
It hit the ground pretty hard, and then he was out. And then, that game had four quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Because the Ravens starter got knocked off, and the Steelers, Pickett got knocked out, and they needed two backups.
And once again, they got Pickett. They got Pickens the ball, George Pickens. Sorry, the receiver. They gave him chances on a couple 50-50 balls. He made some great catches in the first half, and then it seemed like he was not part of the game plan in the second half for whatever reason. And
yeah, I just don't understand. I mean, he made some great plays, and he was getting open, and all of a sudden it was Deontay Johnson playbook week.
Yeah, and we both like
there was a pass that was going to go to Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, and we both like Huntley. We think he's a pretty good backup quarterback for the Ravens, but they got gashed without Lamar Jackson, and it just seemed like,
they couldn't stop the two running backs.
They couldn't stop the two running backs, but again, they're the second highest paid defense in all of football. They have Pro Bowlers at every level, a defensive head coach. You got Flores, a defensive specialist, added to your staff, and it seems like in the second half, the team figures out what to do, and the Steelers don't know what to do about it.
They rushed for, I think, 200 yards or pretty close to it.
Yeah, and like I said, that's without, and again, no disrespect to Travis Huntley, but that's without Lamar Jackson. So our Steelers now, 5-8 with 4 games to play. And when I look at these 4 games, I could see them going, honestly, all 4 records. Because the Panthers are surprisingly frisky, right?
Right.
The Raiders can run the ball, which the Steelers don't seem to like to deal with. And then they play at Baltimore and then home for Cleveland when Deshaun Watson will be like 6 games into his season.
So if they lose all 4, that would make them 5-12.
Yeah.
That'd be a pretty good draft pick, so I wouldn't be upset.
No. And in order for Tomlin to keep his streak, they have to win all 4 because that would make them 9-8 to end the season.
That's not going to happen.
No. It's unlikely, but like I said, they're playing Carolina, the Raiders, the Ravens, and the Browns, and it's sort of like you could tell me anything, and I'd be like, yeah, I could see it, you know.
Yeah.
And as a Steeler fan, we'll save all of our anti-Steeler. What are we going to do? Herding talk for the end, so we can move on to a different sport. You want to go baseball for once?
Let's go baseball. Let's go. Kudos to Aaron Judge for choosing the Yankees, which is kind of where Jason and I thought he should go, because physically it's the best matchup for him to hit in the short porches. And also, if you're a Yankee and you're going to have your number retired, you're going to get a monument out in the outfield. Why would you want to walk away from that and go somewhere else?
Especially because if you look at the last, because they hate A-Rod. So it's Jeter, Rivera, and you could be the third pillar of the 2000 plus Yankees, right?
Yeah.
Because I think you'd rush past anybody else, even Mattingly or some of those other guys. So yeah, it's a good spot to be.
It'd be good. So happy for him. Padres spent an amazing amount of money again on Xander Bogaerts. So you've got Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, and Tatis. That's a lot of money.
And on the other end of that deal, what are you doing if you're the Red Sox? You keep letting young
Japanese players, I guess.
Yeah, because that's 2 years in a row you let go like a young cornerstone piece that everybody wants. It was sort of like people were talking about like how upset Mike Vrabel was when they traded AJ Brown, because it's like you don't let guys that are 24-year-old AJ Brown leave the organization.
No.
Especially when he didn't even get he's not the highest paid receiver in football when he left. And if you're the Red Sox, I know you make a lot of money.
Yeah, the Red Sox are very profitable.
And you let two under 30 absolute studs walk right out of your door. And that's kind of nuts.
Alexander is 30.
Oh, is he 30? Okay.
Because he signed an 11-year contract that takes him to 41.
Oh, okay.
But still, I mean, it's a lot of money. And a lot of people said that was better than the Betts thing. When Betts walked away, that was more damaging than this one is. But we'll see. I mean, it's a shortstop, so maybe now they're going to go after Dansby Swanson. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
They've got enough money to go after Dansby Swanson.
Well, supposedly I've heard too that I don't have any sources, but when you listen to a podcast with sources, that there's another potential Red Sox sale coming up. Although I never understood that, because I feel like you'd want to have the best team possible for somebody to buy.
Well, they're selling they're selling the soccer team.
Yeah.
Fenway Partners, but I don't know if they're going to sell the Red Sox.
Yeah, I suppose it's true. Yeah.
But the soccer team's worth a lot of money, so I mean, but that money's not going to be going to the Red Sox. It's Fenway Partners, so there's other people other than just the Red Sox owners.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else on the baseball side.
I mean, the Mets are spending a lot of money.
The Mets are spending a lot of money and getting a lot of attention. And they just signed a pitcher from Japan.
Yeah, Senga.
That's supposed to be really, really good. But we'll see. I mean, there's pitchers coming from Japan. They've been good. They've been like Ohtani. I mean, Ohtani's been the most special of all the Japanese pitchers that have come over.
Oh, yeah.
And you might say in time, Ichiro is the best hitter that's ever come over. But, it's hard to say you wouldn't rather have Ohtani than Ichiro, as good as Ichiro was.
And
Ohtani could pitch and hit.
And by the time their careers are done, because Ichiro came over here at 27 or 28, right?
Yep.
And Ohtani is still...
You're getting Ohtani in his prime.
Yeah, because Ohtani's, 23, 24 still, I think?
He's pretty young.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
Yeah. So I watched women's volleyball.
Okay.
Which I watch every year. And Pitt upset the defending champion, Wisconsin, on their home court where they hadn't lost all year. And they were the number one seed. So that was interesting. And then the University of San Diego, not San Diego State, so the University of San Diego, which is a fairly small Catholic school, doesn't play football, and plays in the West Coast Conference with Gonzaga. They beat Stanford. Stanford was the number 1 seed in the region. So you've got, for the first time ever, no Big Ten team in the finals of women's volleyball. And you've got Texas, Louisville, Pitt, and San Diego.
Okay.
That's your schools. And Pitt plays Louisville, and they're in the same conference, and they were co-tied. They were tied for the conference championship. They both lost one game. They split their series, so they were both 17-1 in the conference. So I'll be excited to watch that next week. And I always enjoy watching the FCS games, even though they're all over the place. But they're down to their final 4 teams, and they'll play in Frisco, Texas next weekend. And it's South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Montana State, I don't know, and Incarnate Word out of San Antonio. And then those 4 teams will play next weekend. And then they'll have a couple weeks off, and they'll play their national championship game, I think, around January 8th or 9th. But I always like to see those unheralded players. The guy the Packers drafted played in that, what's his name, the receiver?
Christian Watson? Or no, Dobbs.
Yeah.
I think that might have been Dobbs.
Watson.
Yeah, okay.
That's the guy. He played at North Dakota State. So you get some really good players out of there, and it's fun to watch. So I'll give you a recommendation. You should check that out next weekend. And all the games are in Frisco, Texas, and I think they're in the Star where the Cowboys practice. And they also hold high school games there that seat about 18 to 20,000. So it's like the perfect attendance for those games. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, do you want to talk a little hoops? Because there's something kind of going on.
Let's talk a little hoops. The Pelicans are, like you said, the Pelicans are unreal. I watched Zion's highlight the other night.
And his attitude.
He went down and had his tomahawk slam.
Yeah. But you look right now, Pelicans, Minnesota, Denver, then Phoenix and Sacramento. And that's your top 5 right there. A lot of youth at the top, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of changing of the guard, which I like.
Yeah. Because the Lakers are sitting at 10 and 15. The Suns are on a little bit of a losing streak. The Warriors have started playing better. They just beat the Celtics last night. Or the last night of the night.
The Warriors are good at home. They're not good on the road.
No. But the two, I think, both between the Pelicans and the Warriors, because the Warriors still have probably something with Moody, Poole, Wiseman, Kuminga. Like, you could probably make a move to bring somebody in, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the Pelicans, who are already incredibly deep, have just a treasure trove of picks to trade. Including some of those Lakers picks, which, might be enticing to somebody if they need to look for somebody else to bring in. I don't know who they would bring in because they're pretty good, but...
Well, I just want the Pelicans to stay healthy.
Yeah.
I want to see what they can do.
And again, my feeling on the Lakers, since we have to do our, every couple of days talk about the Lakers, is, the 2027, 2029 pick and then some form of, Kendrick Nunn, Russell Westbrook. Like, I don't think you're getting a difference maker. So I don't know if I would make that trade if I was them anyway, It's not like
I don't think so either.
Like, the argument you're going to waste a season with Russ and, one more season with LeBron towards the end and then this AD season that he's having. But I don't know who you could possibly get, period, let alone for what you have. And then, like I said, you look at a team like Memphis, you look at a team like the Pelicans, you look at a team like the Warriors, like there's just teams that have better. So if somebody became available, I don't see what the Lakers could possibly offer that would be better than what everybody else could offer. They would probably want the same player,
Yeah, that's a big point because you can want to trade all you can. I mean, you can really be. I'm in the market. I want to really look at improving my team, but you don't have anything. You don't have anything on the current roster. You probably don't have anything on your G League team, and you definitely don't have any draft picks that are worthwhile.
Yeah, and I know people are like, well, they might be bad in 2027 and 2029, and I'm like, I think the Pelicans have a chance for their 2023 pick and their 2025 pick, which might end up being worse. So,
yeah,
like I said, I just don't know what the Lakers have that couldn't be usurped by almost every team ahead of them as far as getting, that great player that would come on the market. And if you're just talking about, Vucevic and DeRozan or, Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, like maybe you win a few more games, but it doesn't make you a contender. So the trade just still makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think those aren't team. The Lakers need a player that's going to change the makeup of the team, change the impact or the way the game's played, or have such an impact that's going to make things better for LeBron and some of the other players. I just don't see it. I don't see anybody going there.
And then you even look at the top of the East. At some point, the Celtics are getting Robert Williams back, which is a huge deal. The Bucks are getting healthy now, and then after the All-Star break, they get Joe Ingles. So even on the East, you got teams that are just going to get better just by getting healthier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I mean, why would you say? You say, "Oh, I can play with LeBron." Well, LeBron, how many years does LeBron have left?
Yeah.
And you're not playing with the LeBron. You're playing with LeBron.
And we also hear stories that have leaked out of a couple camps, most famously Kawhi's camp, where it's like, if I play with LeBron and we win, LeBron gets all the credit. If I play with LeBron and we lose, I get all the blame.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So I mean, I think if I'm a star with some sort of I would say ego, because that's now every NBA player has a little bit of ego, but if that's my thought, I'm not going to want to go there. So.
I'm telling all the listeners, if you listen to our podcast today, watch SportsCenter tonight, because Patrick Mahomes is being Patrick Mahomes. And just threw the wildest pass that went for a touchdown.
Yeah, he's good at that stuff. And Denver is.
This was like the pass you would throw if you were playing kill the man with the ball.
Yeah.
This is like the pass you would throw when you were getting ready to go down. You would just take like a hook shot kind of a thing and throw it to get rid of it to somebody else.
Yeah, his ability to do.
Mahomes is good as for a touchdown.
Yeah, his ability to complete all the passes that you're not supposed to throw consistently is the crazy part.
He's the Steph Curry of the NFL.
Because we watched, a certain quarterback on the Steelers today named Mitch Trubisky throw a couple of those balls that somehow Patrick Mahomes finds a way to make those completions and everybody else those interceptions.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Pretty incredible is right.
Well, you want to talk about my new show that I want to do?
Well, let's talk about one other thing, then we'll go to your show.
Okay.
So yesterday I sent Jason a text, and I said, if I could buy a portion of the UFC ticket for the evening, I would watch Paddy the Baddy. Just because of the clips I saw of him on SportsCenter this week. I think he's highly entertaining.
Very entertaining.
I think he's the kind of guy that you either love or you hate, which is great for ratings. And, now he's 4-0. Some question as to whether he should have won this last match or not. But Paddy the Baddy is very intriguing to me.
Yeah. And those, if it's a close fight, those judgment things are just so, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a close fight, this guy's better for the league than the other guy.
It just is, yeah.
It just is. And so if sometimes marketing enters into play, if everything else is even, maybe marketing enters into play because this guy gets headlines, this guy gets attention.
And I know if I'm Dana White right now, I want Paddy's next two fights to be against, I want him to be the heavy favorite.
Yeah.
And
the
it's
funny
fun.
thing is, he's got the haircut and he looks like he should be on the cast of Dumb and Dumber.
Oh yeah, people wear those wigs in the stands. Like he's the guy you dream of. He's got like WWE guy written all over him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, talk about your show idea, which I really liked.
All right, well, I've been thinking about the committee, and the committee I'm talking about is the one that votes for. They do these standings of the NCAA that decides who gets into the playoffs for the football, right? And we have a 4-team playoff this year. Next year we're going to 12.
Yep.
Now, according to a lot of experts on TV, the problem with the committee now is that it's made up of a bunch of ADs that people just don't believe are watching the games, right?
Or that they're so biased it doesn't matter if they watch them or not.
Or they're so biased it wouldn't matter or not. So I want to make a house that would be like 3 days a week. It would be like Big Brother, where they're in the house and we're watching them. And the 12 people of the committee, and we pick former players, former referees. We find a nice mixture of 12 good people. And we have cameras on them as they watch all the NCAA football games each week, which I know is a lot of football. And along with that, in the comments, yeah, lots of comments, lots of interacting. On day one when they get there, everybody, since they're going to be talking about college athletes, has to do the combine and the Wonderlic. So whenever they bring up somebody's 40 time or how they look slow, they can be made fun of for their own 40 time or how they look slow. And then each week when they're doing the poll, if there's two people that are fighting and they're the deciding vote between whether UCLA or USC is number 9 or number 8, they would compete in some sort of contest. And the winner of that contest's team would be the one that would get the vote to go over the top.
Okay.
And it would be the same.
They'd go in on Friday.
Yeah.
They'd watch the games on Saturday night. And on Sundays, they'd have their discussion and make their vote. That'd be the 3 days you televised.
Pretty much, yeah.
Show. Okay.
And obviously, you could probably have it on a webcam 24 hours a day, just like they do in the Big Brother house for the days that they're in the house. And then the rest you would cut down and edit for a nice hour of TV. But that way we're seeing the process live. So as fans, you can get mad at the actual people that are voting against your team or like the people that are voting for your team because you're watching the discussion in real time. And then you're also hearing the explanation for why 3-loss Alabama is better than the team who beat them during the regular season, that kind of thing. Which I think people would like to see. People like to see behind the curtain. They were not dissuaded by the Wizard of Oz.
True.
But yeah, that's basically the show. I see a lot of reality TV on television. People are desperate for it. And I was like, let's bring some football into it.
Yeah, I don't dispute it. I think it's a good idea. I think it's fun. I think people are critical of the people that are voting. I think they feel that people are biased. I don't think they feel that every team gets a fair shot. I think that the SEC and the Big Ten are overrepresented. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So I think both of those are overrepresented. So,
and again, the best you get with the current process now is you get, a reporter on ESPN saying he heard behind the scenes that they felt that, the win over Mississippi State was worth 3 wins in the other that kind of like. But this way you would see the process happen live and you'd know who to be mad at or who to be happy about.
Okay. Is there any way for the audience to have any interaction with the people?
I think there would have to be, without a doubt. I mean, we could have we could do like this traditional podcast where you've just got the wall of comments going through constantly throughout the day. You could have fans of the week. I think you could do a lot, there's a lot you could do with it, so. But the big part would be being to watch the process live and then being able to see the people and why, and you have to hear why they're voting, who they're voting for. And then my other question for you as a marketing person, right?
Yeah.
As we look at these 4, right? TCU would obviously be the least popular for the TV network, right?
Absolutely.
But with the TV network, and again, I'm a little biased because I got to sell programs at Ohio State and see the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry in person. But I am in the South right now in an SEC town, so it evens out. But do you think the TV rate, what's a better story? Is it Ohio State and Michigan, or is it Michigan, Georgia? Nationally, what plays better?
That's a really good question.
Because you've got, 3 historic programs. You got a North-South thing. You've got a career rivalry. Like, Heisman Trophy guys and first-round picks on every team. Like, it's 3 fantastic teams. And TCU's got some guys, too. I was just trying to figure out what would be if I was a TV exec, what do I want?
If Ohio State Michigan would have been a closer game when it was played,
yeah,
and this is going to be a rematch, I think that would be what I would pick. But now, because Michigan dominated Ohio State and Georgia's dominated most people, then I have to say it's Michigan, Georgia.
Okay.
And then TCU is like Cinderella.
Right. But they're not quite like a Davidson in the NCAA tournament Cinderella,
No, because it's football.
It's football, yeah. So it's like as Cinderella as they can possibly be, I suppose.
I mean, it's a lot bigger. If TCU would win the national championship, that'd be bigger than the basketball story, I think. Even though TCU is a really good team. But, I mean, just because they're not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And there's people that still don't think they should be there. There's probably some people think, despite them being undefeated, that Alabama should be in because they're playing really well right now and they're probably the better team. So yeah, it's just I agree. I think there is a lot of, if it's not real bias, it is. People do think it's biased. The viewers think it's biased, or the fans think it's biased, and sometimes think it's biased because it's not what they would agree with. But sometimes I just think that some teams are just overrated.
And then,
Some
like,
conferences I think the Big Ten gets so many teams in the preseason top 20, then increases their chance of getting somebody in the playoff right away.
oh yeah, and it's one of those two things that are true. Like, both the SEC and the Big Ten they're extremely well because usually by week 5, they can say they've each beaten like a top 10 team and 2 top 20 teams, just
Right.
because of the way that it was predetermined schedule wise. But at the same time, they do get, if you're going by 5-star, 4-star recruits, those are the conferences that get the most of supposedly the best players, and they do seem to have the most players drafted. So it's kind of a, there is a bias that helps them, but there's probably a little truth to the fact that maybe those are the best,
Yeah, I would have to say that.
But in this country, we don't like to admit that sometimes multiple truths can be true.
Yeah, I mean, this year, it's pretty much, it's hard not to agree with the 4 that are in.
Yeah.
I agree with it more this year than any of the last 5 years, I think. Would I have liked Southern Cal to get in? Yes. I would have just liked to have more difference.
And more Caleb Williams. Heisman winner, right?
Yeah. So next year with 12 teams, I mean, 12 teams, you should say, okay, everybody's covered. We know that's not going to be the case. There's going to be somebody lobbying that's 13 and 14. Boy, they should be 10 or 11. So
yeah,
we'll see it.
It's true. Well, I don't believe either of us had much food this week, right? Nothing exciting and new.
No, nothing new. I mean, I went back to Casa San Stefano and had food, but I mean, I've talked about it at least twice before on the show, so there's no sense bringing it up.
Yeah. And then entertainment-wise, I sadly don't think I have any new entertainments.
No, I've got a couple theater trips next week, but nothing this week, and I really didn't watch much on TV besides the sports I talked about.
You know what? I lied. I did have a couple entertainment moments.
Okay.
Not fantastic ones, but, just throwing it out there because it's every year. We did watch Home Alone this morning because it's my favorite Christmas movie of all time. And I love that movie. We watched the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, which is on Disney Plus. It's like 40 minutes long, and it's all the people from the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Kevin Bacon is in it. And it was a pretty entertaining 40 minutes. I don't know if it becomes like a Halloween class, or not Halloween, a Christmas classic you watch every year, but especially if you're a Marvel fan, which seems like there are tons, so I assume some of our listeners are, it's definitely worth watching. And then, I don't know if you've watched this, Dad, but I did watch A Christmas Story, or whatever the part 2 is.
The new one with Ralphie as the adult?
I did.
I am going to watch it.
If you enjoy the first one, which based on TBS and TNT, I assume a lot of people do, I think you'll enjoy it. Like, I don't think this would be one you're like, we got to crank that out. But if you're, sort of in those nostalgia, like Clerks 3 this year, and apparently some of Top Gun Maverick, like, they do enough job of bringing in the people you want to be brought in and sort of tying up loose ends from back in the day, what happened to these kids.
Okay.
That I think you'll enjoy.
So it's not just Ralphie. It's other people that are in it too?
Everybody that is alive that was in A Christmas Story is in A Christmas Story too.
Oh, I got to watch it then for sure. I actually watched about an hour of Christmas Story the other night just because I always do when I want to see certain scenes.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Farkas, Flick, all those people, they all make appearances. Ralphie, everybody gets in. There is one guy in the movie that I don't remember. I haven't watched The Christmas Story, but bizarrely enough, I've avoided it for the last decade or so. So you'll have to tell me, when you watch it, you'll tell me if that character was even in the first one. Because I don't remember him from the first one. But yeah, if you're alive and you were in the first one, you made it into the sequel. Which is nice to see,
Okay. I'm definitely going to watch it then, and I'll talk about it. I'll do the comparison then on the show.
Yeah. And I'm not sure, we're probably going to take a week or two off over the next couple weeks before we get into the new year, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, next week's a travel week for you, right?
Next week is a travel week for me, yeah. So we were probably thinking next week off, and then I'm good after that. But, we'll sort of play it by ear and see if anything big happens.
Well, you're coming back Christmas Eve, right?
I am.
Okay.
So I can definitely we can put one out that
We
week.
can maybe do a show Christmas week,
Yeah.
like the 26th or something like that. Why don't we, listeners? We will plan to do a show that week, but we won't be doing a show next week.
Yes.
Next week's a travel week leading up to the holiday, so we'll take next week off and wish you a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and hope you get everything done that you want to get done before the holiday. And then we'll come on right after Christmas, either the 26th or 27th. We'll do a show.
Perfect. All right. So until 2-ish weeks from now, have a great week. Weeks.
Yeah, everybody enjoy.